Folks, I think we're just waiting for a few people in the lobby to come in. Okay, we're about to begin. Good evening. Welcome to the Argyle ISD Candidate Forum. I'm Bob Weir, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's Candidate Forum. I'm here with Max Miller, publisher of the Cross Timbers Gazette, where local lives here. The Cross Timbers Gazette is proud to provide this opportunity to the community to meet their school board candidates and hear their views on the issues. The Cross Timbers Gazette is mailed to 55,000 homes and businesses each month, including every household in the Argyle ISD. You can also read the latest Southern Denton County news online anytime at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, also on Facebook or Twitter. This forum is being live streamed on the Talon, Argyle High School newspaper's YouTube channel, and will be available for on-demand viewing between now and Election Day. I would like to now welcome and introduce our school board candidates. For place 6, left to right here, we have Andrew Herring and Matthew Slayton. Place 7, we have Nicholas Reynolds and Joshua Westrom. Place 7 candidate, Natalie Long, withdrew from the race, but her name will appear on the ballot due to her withdrawal after the deadline. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. After the opening statement, I will ask the candidates questions submitted by residents. Questions will be asked in rotating order. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. We will also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal. Finally, there will be 1 minute for closing statements, and they will be asked in reverse order. In the row up front here, we have Richard Spies, will be our timekeeper today. Spies, I'm sorry, Spies. I wrote it down wrong, I'm sorry. All right, Richard Spies. All right, we will begin with our opening statements, and first would be Andrew Herring.
My name is Andrew Herring, and I'm running for Argyle ISD School Board, Place 6 in the upcoming May election. There is no doubt that the landscape of our district is changing. With this massive growth that we're seeing and accepting hundreds and welcoming hundreds of family members into our school district every year, and with this growth continuing on well into the next decade, there comes a lot of emotions. Some people are nervous, others are anxious, curious, or even excited. And make no mistake, there are 2 questions that all of them ask. What are we going to do, and how are we going to do it? And this all stems from the massive amount of uncertainty that is in our district today. It is my goal by the end of tonight, with the vision and plans that I put out, that we can draw down some of that anxiousness, that we can lower our nervousness a little bit, and that we can shine the light on the great opportunity that comes with a growing district. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Matthew Slayton, your 1 minute opening, please.
Hello and good evening. My name is Matthew Slayton. I'm running for Place 6 on the Argyle School Board. A little bit about me. I've been here in Argyle for about 14 years. So I've seen a lot of this growth that everyone's experiencing. Obviously, this has accelerated over the last couple of years, and it's not going to stop. As Andrew pointed out, we're dealing with a lot of challenges here in the district, and those will not be going away. But I think you'll hear from Andrew, myself, Nick, and Josh tonight. We all have similar views on many of the issues at hand. So there's nothing contentious. Anyone that's talked to us knows that this is a pretty open election cycle. But I think the big thing, we all want to look at expertise, and we all want to make sure that we're voting for folks that will be able to implement the goals and visions that we have for the school district.
Thank you, Matthew. Nicholas Reynolds, your 1 minute opening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Reynolds, and I'm running for Argyle ISD School Board Place 7. Thank you all for coming out, taking your evening to come out here and support us and listen to what we have to say. I'm a dad of 4 kids that attend this district. I really wanted to do this because I genuinely care. Civil service to me is incredibly important. That passion for civil service to me started when we were foster parents back in 2013, and that really developed a deep passion for civil service for me. We moved up to Argyle, like most people, because this school district and this community are second to none. I knew I wanted to be involved because I wanted to help make decisions on what is best for this district going forward based on a unique perspective I can bring based off of my experiences in my community and the schools that my kids go to. I truly believe that I will be the voice for everybody here, and every decision that I make on the school board, I can promise you it will be based on input and feedback from everybody in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Joshua Westrom, your 1 minute opening, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Westrom. I've moved to Argyle in 2013 with my wife, Erin. We have 4 children, and they're Tyler and sophomore, Garrett, a freshman, Ella is a 6th grader, and Emma is a 2nd grader. You know, when we moved here in 2013, we were like many of y'all. We were looking for a good school district for our children, and we settled in this community because of that school district. And since 2013, I can tell you that my wife and I and my family have done everything we can to continue to make this a great school district. We volunteered in everything that you can possibly volunteer, including the Argyle Education Foundation, Booster Club, PTA, PTO. Growth is a new challenge for some. It's an old challenge for me. I've been raising money to hire teachers to reduce class size. I've been raising money to add STEM curriculum to broaden the coursework here. And I look forward to serving this school district as a board member to help them face the growth challenges that are facing us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. We will now begin a question and answer format. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question, and there's an optional 30-second rebuttal. Questions will be asked in rotating order, beginning with Andrew Herring. And the question is on growth. What are the key factors in the continued management of Argyle ISD's rapid student enrollment growth?
Well, a couple of factors that we have to note right off the bat is that we are a little bit behind as a district acquiring land to build our schools. I don't know if you guys noticed in the bond package that's being proposed, there is $20 million to acquire land. If we think about some of the surrounding areas, such as Louisville ISD and other districts, they were very proactive in going out and acquiring that land, knowing that the growth was coming. So we're a little bit behind that. We also need a strategic middle school and high school plan for the long term. We kind of have what's a patchwork going on right now, and we want to make sure that once we get through this election and we get this committee coming up of community members, excuse me, that we're able to put that together and really create that long-term plan. Because right now, a lot of people that I've talked to thought that it was missing out of this bond package coming up. What are we going to do with the high schools? What are we going to do long-term with the middle schools? We have to get that plan done to bring back a lot more confidence in our school board and our school district.
Thank you, Andrew. Same question for Matthew Slayton.
Anybody that drove here and went down 377, 407, 1171, you guys were probably stuck in traffic at some point, okay? The growth is hitting us, you know, like we've never seen before. It's not going to stop anytime soon. If you look at the demographer reports, we are in a time when developers are developing faster than they have in the past because of low interest rates. There are not enough single-family homes being built. So that is going to continue. As we look at, you know, we'll talk further about the bond packages and some of the numbers that were associated with those, but as we look at the district over the next 5-10 years, even some of the numbers that have come through as we look at the development from First Ranch are on the low side, I would say. So again, growth is going to continue. We've got to be able to try to manage that in an efficient way.
Thank you, Matthew. Same question, Nicholas Reynolds.
Like the other two have said, the growth is inevitable because we're experiencing it right now. I think the growth is actually a very positive thing for this district, and I think it's important to understand that when we approach this topic, we need to approach it as a one community holistic view. What's best for this community, what's best for the school district. With that, I think it's important to understand that Argyle ISD encompasses 5 municipalities, so we are much more than just the city of Argyle. I think it's important over the next few years to understand that we've got to make sure that we have a great working relationship with every municipality that feeds into our district, and with that we have either regular meetings or regular conversations to understand what's coming down the pipeline so that we can plan accordingly. So that developments that are coming, we can ask for commercial development first to help ease the burden to the taxpayers. And I do think it's vital that we establish and maintain a 5, 10, and 15-year plan that is ever evolving with the changes that come in our area.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question for Josh Westrom.
I'll kind of start where I left off in my opening statement. Growth is not a new problem for this district. We've been dealing with it since 2014, at least, when I moved in here. And we've been doing everything we can to reduce class sizes and add curriculum, certainly through the Argyle Education Foundation. I don't think this board's done a bad job. I don't think this administration has done a bad job because we're growing at 10% clip every year. We're building schools almost every other year since we've been here. And I understand, yes, we need land. We need schools, and I will tell you why I think I'm the best candidate for that. Because I don't do that for volunteer work. I do that professionally. I'm a lawyer by trade. I'm in real estate. I represent school districts. I litigate against school districts over land acquisitions, site selection, and I think that expertise, that experience will serve this school district well as we go try to find more school sites and build more buildings to serve this great and growing community. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. For the next question, we begin with Matthew Slayton. And the question is, what areas do you consider to be the most crucial in current and future bond planning?
Well, most crucial is classrooms, okay? Clearly, we've got a bond that's going to be voted for here shortly. It's not the first bond. It absolutely will not be the last bond. They're obviously broken down into different propositions. We've got education as a part of it, and then we also have some athletic and other facilities that tie into it. The one thing I do want to say about the athletic facilities, the stadiums and things like that, we all know that the municipalities around here haven't done a great job with parks. And so what a lot of people don't realize is the school's always done a great job of providing the fields to AYSA and other groups to utilize when there aren't other facilities around. So again, the bonds are important. We're going to be in portables if we don't pass them, is the reality. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to pass them. But with regards to the entire package, it's important to look at everything that the school does provide on a regular basis.
Thank you, Matthew. Same question for Nicholas Reynolds.
Would you mind repeating the question? I want to make sure.
Sure. What areas do you consider to be the most crucial in current and future bond planning?
I think in the current bond, the most crucial part of it, outside of building the actual facilities, which if any of you have ever been to Argyle West, which my kids are zoned for, you'll understand the dire need for elementary schools. At the clip that Argyle West is growing at, they on average receive 5 students per day, 5 students per week. And with that kind of growth, you've got to make sure that you have the facilities. But to really answer your question, I think the most important part of this bond is finding and purchasing land for those schools, because right now land is at a premium, and we need to make sure that we have a plan for purchasing land for the schools that our children do need. If this bond doesn't pass, much like Matt said, the thought of our children being in portables for an extended amount of time is not something that I think would be beneficial as far as a capacity or learning environment for our children.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question for Josh Westrom.
I want to speak about the bond for a second, and for anybody that's in doubt whether we need it and whether it's too big or not appropriately sized. This is the third bond that I will have a chance to vote on since I've been here. 2014, we voted on a bond to build, that included building West Elementary. 2017, we voted on a bond that included building this school right here and the South Elementary School campus coming on. If you have any doubt whether or not that bond money will be spent appropriately, whether it's needed, this administration and this board are the ones that, proposed those bonds and, spent that money. And I think you can sit here in this room and say they did it right, they did it well, and you can have a great deal of confidence that this bond that they're asking us to vote on here in May, they'll do it right and they'll do it well. And I want to be a part of it as we try to figure out what to do with this money, where to find the site selections, the land, how best to strategically locate these schools to serve the growing communities out west in the southern part of the district.
Thank you, Josh. Same question for Andrew Herring.
Okay, so with the current bond, we obviously have an elementary school capacity issue. Right now, as Nick mentioned, Argyle West is growing at a very rapid clip right now. And even with the opening of Argyle South here at the beginning of this next school year in August, we'll be about back at capacity in the 2023 school year. So getting these elementary schools are kind of the glass ball you're juggling right now, that we have to get these elementary schools built. Probably more on the northwestern side on the first one, just so we can accommodate the growth at the Ridge. They have about 850 more homes. Harvest has about 1,200 more homes they're going to build. So all of those kids will need somewhere to go to school, and having a plan where those kids in the Ridge drive all the way from there down to Argyle South is not a long-term solution. In fact, I would argue that we could have changed that a little bit. Going forward, we need a long-term middle school and high school plan. Are we going to have a vertical alignment of our middle schools into one high school? Are we going to have two separate middle schools that feed into two separate high schools? Where are the boundaries going to be drawn on that? So that's really important that we incorporate that into the next bond to bring confidence to our community that they can vote on that bond package.
Thank you, Andrew. For the next question, we begin with Nicholas Reynolds. The question is, what should be the most important factors in the future high school configuration decision when a second high school may be needed to accommodate growth?
I think the most, there's a couple of things I think you have to take into consideration. I think that if you take into account what is best for this community and what is best for the students overall, in my opinion, I think, after doing research and talking to numerous people within this district and community, I truly believe a one high school model is best for this community. I personally like the idea that Southlake has done, where they have two separate campuses, both feeding are both supporting the district. And if you look at the data that Southlake has reported, we're going to be Southlake sized by 2028. Roughly. Southlake's average SAT score is 1280, and the state's average is 1022. Their average ACT score is 27. The state's average is 20. They have a 100% graduation rate and a 99% rate of their seniors going to college. So Southlake shows you there that a large school district, one high school town can be done, and it can be done successful.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question, Josh Westrom.
Well, if you wanted to know where the daylight is between Nick and I, you just saw it. For me, it's not a matter of, if we need two high schools, it's just a matter of when. And you can look at the demographic report. We're going to approach class sizes that are larger than Southlake in 2028, 2029. We're going to exceed, and let me make sure, when you look at those numbers in that demographic report, it only includes about the first phase of First Ranch, and you're going to be bigger than Southlake, okay? Now, Southlake is a great school. And it'll still be there for people that, if this doesn't work out for you, it's 20 minutes down the street. I'm just telling you that Southlake is 21 square miles. 21 square miles. Argyle is 35 square miles. When you talk about long-range planning, you need to think about, we need to know what the build-out is going to be of this district. We need to know that number and know that student population, because we're going to hit 1,000 or 1,200 kids easy, and it's going to be time to split.
Thank you, Josh. Same question for Andrew Herring.
I want to point out one thing about the 35 square miles. Not all 35 square miles can be built out due to the Argyle proper's limitations on what you can build. So there's one thing. But there's four things we're going to look at when we are deciding this, right? We want to make sure that the plan is something that the community can get behind. And 54% of people in last year's survey said they wanted some form of one high school. Okay, 27% of people said they wanted two separate high schools. So right there, to me, that kind of kicks that out. We also want to make sure that's financially doable for the district. That's the second thing. We want to make sure it's logistically doable with the facilities that we have here. We want to make sure it's a long-term plan and a long-term solution. So my solution would be, instead of building middle school 2, that we build high school 2. And we put the middle schoolers back at the current middle school where they are now. That opens up our capacity immediately to 3,500 kids if we build a carbon copy of this school, with a capacity potential of 4,500 kids in the future. Use that extra space for anything CTE or other kind of courses we don't have a lot of right now because we don't have the infrastructure, but that would be my plan going forward.
Thank you, Andrew. Same question for Matthew Slayton.
With all due respect to your numbers, it was actually 67% of those surveyed said they didn't want class sizes over 800 students. Again, as everybody said, it's not an if, it's a when. We are going to grow, we are going to be bigger than Southlake in no time. If we want to be Allen, if we want to have class sizes of 2,500 graduating students, then I know I'm out of here. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't think that's why anybody came to Argyle in the first place. I am all for one Argyle, okay? Let me be clear. I want one Argyle. However, I do believe at some point, for the benefit of our students, it will make sense to look at splitting the schools. I don't want to do it. There are complications on either side of it. But the reality is, I'm up here because I want to represent the students and I want to do the best I can for every student in the district. And I believe at a certain point, that means we are probably going to need to split. If we don't have to split, if things change, fantastic. But I don't see that that's going to change.
Thank you, Matthew. For the next question, we begin with Josh Westrom. The question is, what are your highest priorities and goals regarding instruction in Argyle ISD?
Well, again, this is something that's been passionate for me for a long time. Since 2014, we recognize that this school needs to add curriculum. It needs to broaden its subject matters. And so when I served on the board of the Argyle Education Foundation, we had a little crisis where our kids were being put on buses to go find classes in other school districts, and we said, what can we do? And I said, as a board, we said, let's go start a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that board went out and raised money to support the school starting that. And I served as VP of development, and that's what we went out and raised big money. It was hundreds, $200,000 a year issuing checks to do that. And so I think growing that STEM program, adding trade schools, adding technology, building on those types of programs would be the utmost highest priority for me, and it has been since 2014.
Thank you, Josh. Same question for Andrew Herring.
I'm the only former educator or current educator on the stage up here tonight. So one of the things we do as an educator is we try to reach as many students as we can, both in our classrooms and our schools. So one thing you get when you have a growing district is you run into great things that you can increase your CTE programs, but you may not have enough kids interested in that program until you hit 2,200 enrollment. Until you hit 2,600 or 2,700 enrollment, 3,000 enrollment, then the district can justify hiring a teacher to teach that particular class. So now if we go talk about we're splitting the schools, you're not going to be able to have the numbers at both campuses to justify two different teachers. So that is an extra cost to the district if we go that route, and I'm afraid that's a cost that we may not have financial resources for.
Thank you, Andrew. Same question for Matthew Slayton.
I want to congratulate all of you. You live in a district of overachievers. As Nick pointed out a minute ago, giving you Southlake's demographic information and their graduation rates, it's another community of overachievers. All right, so the curriculum that this board and Dr. Wright have put into place and had in place for many years, I believe are doing our kids justice. if you look at their scores across the board in the region and against the state, over the last couple of years, we have overachieved in every area, -1, the 7th grade math master's unit, but otherwise, we are doing quite well. I don't think, we can get into the whole other discussion about splitting things up and having, you know, the funds for CTE programs and other types of things. I think that's a separate discussion and one that we should probably have at some point. But I think from a curriculum perspective, I think the board's done a good job, and I think we need to continue because that's why we're all here, and I think we've done a great job up to this point.
Thank you, Matthew. Same question for Nicholas Westrom.
Reynolds. That's okay. We're sitting next to each other. It's fine. We look a lot alike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get that wrong?
You threw me off my game there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
What I think that this board and what this district and administration has done very well is empower the administrators at each campus to do the very best they can and empower the teachers that teach our children every single day. So I see the board members out here, and I see Dr. Wright here, so thank you for that, because I think that shows through the overachieving that our children have done. I think that's crucial. But to get back to your question, I think we really need to make sure in the future, or continuing rather, that we do put a high focus on technology, math, and science. And when I say technology, I don't necessarily mean giving every child a computer, because not every child wants or needs a computer. I'm talking about giving them the fundamental understanding of each one of those pillars. And much like Andrew said, I think the more opportunities are going to come from a model where we have one community and we have one school district and we have one high school, because there will be more offerings that are available to all of our children.
If you'd like a 30-second rebuttal, sure.
I want to address this opportunity thing about one school versus two schools. And, you know, we have 350, 380 kids per class right now, okay? So we're not talking about this needs to be done immediately. We're talking about we need to be prepared for when we hit 800 or 900 kids. Opportunity. You have two high schools, they don't have to be identical. You can have different specialties within those high schools that provide unique opportunities. You can have a trade in a technology school, an international business school over here, and you can provide the opportunity for these kids to go back and forth and educate them that way. Big opportunity doesn't come from just one school. You can have different schools with different models that provide a great opportunity for everybody in this district when it's appropriate class sizes.
Another rebuttal? Sure.
I think that the dual campus is an interesting thought. However, if you have different class offerings at two different campuses, I have talked with various administrators in the district and said, what if student at campus A wants to take a class at campus B? Same district, what happens to that student that wants to take a class at campus B? They would have to transfer to that campus to be able to take that class. So we're not able to offer the exact same opportunities to every child, and that is what I am for, is to ensure that every child in this district receives the exact same opportunities as every other child.
Another rebuttal?
Yes, so everybody that I've talked to in the 3 months since I've started this journey has said, we want a long-term, clear-cut plan. What are we going to do? And you can't, if you start going 10 or 15 years down the road, say we're going to be a one-school town or we're going to be a two-school town. You start gearing every one of your plans towards those plans, right? There's no wish-washy, we're going to go up to this point and then we might send some kids over here or we might send some kids over there. That creates zero confidence in our voters, zero confidence in our parents, zero confidence in our schools.
Any other rebuttals? No. All right, we'll move on to the next question. And we begin this question with Andrew Herring. The question is, bullying is a concern with parents, teachers, and administration. What initiatives or strategies would you propose to tackle this issue?
Yes, I've talked to a lot of moms have reached out to me for this very issue. And two things that they've always said to me, it's kind of a two-thing night, I guess, but two things they've said is, who do I reach out to in the event that my child is involved in one of these incidents? Do I reach out to a counselor? Do I reach out to a teacher, an administrator? Who's the first person to contact? What's my pathway there? So that's one thing we need to address. The second thing we need to address is, once it gets to administrators, I've heard over and over and over again that it dies right there. My child should just become the Argyle way and get over it. Your kid has this going on or that going on. When all these parents are saying the same thing, it makes it kind of tough to think that they're all lying to me, okay? I've talked to a counselor that lives within the school district. She specializes in child counseling, and she said her cases are up 60%, 60%, all due to bullying. And about 85% of the kids she sees as a whole are seeing that as well. So we need to get a clear-cut path for our families, and we also need to make sure that we're holding our administrators accountable so that they are addressing the issue and we can create a culture that works for everybody.
Thank you, Andrew. Same question, Matthew Slayton.
I'm going to agree with Andrew on this, 100%. We're living in a time when bullying doesn't necessarily take on the same look and feel that it did 15, 20, 50 years ago. With social media and other online tools, this is an issue that continues to plague a lot of students of all ages, of both sexes. And it's something that even if it only affects one person, that's one person too many. There should not be any student anywhere in this district who is bullied or is shamed for anything. And to Andrew's point, we can always get better. You know, there are some reporting items that could be enhanced, and there's certainly, you know, follow through and accountability that needs to be put in place. Because again, it needs to get better, and we can always do better on that subject.
Thank you, Matthew. Same question for Nicholas Reynolds.
Bullying is wrong. It's morally, ethically wrong. And I feel terrible for any child or any adult for that matter that has to experience anything that resembles bullying. It really breaks my heart to know that this happens in our community. But I think the best way that we combat bullying is education. Making sure that that our district, our community, our parents, our students are all educated on what bullying looks like, how it feels, how it can manifest in somebody that is bullying, what their true intents are behind it, and you know what the long-lasting effects are to those children that are experiencing bullying. I think if we continue to empower our administrators at those campuses and let them know that we as a community and we as a school board support them and making sure that they have all of the tools at their disposal to handle any case of bullying that comes their way, I think that's how we stop it, is education and empowering each campus to make their rightful decision.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question, Josh Westrom.
I've heard about the bullying. I have friends that have children that have been bullied, and I understand their frustration, and I talk to my kids about it quite frequently, about do they see it, and you know what role they can play in terms of how to help a kid or a friend or a student or a new member to our community if they see it. So I think it can start really at home, more so than sitting there saying it's an administration problem. It's a principal problem. You know, because a lot of what goes on doesn't go on in the hallways of the school. And so let's look at what's going on in our house. Let's talk to our kids about it, ask them what they see it, what they hear. Is it happening to their friends? And I think we need to take responsibility for it and not necessarily put it all on the administration. I know this administration. I bet they have a best practices for handling it. They have a reporting policy that they go through. And I have the confidence that, you know, they are equipped to handle a bullying situation well and in accordance with the best practices out there. And if it needs to be revised and updated, let's do it.
Thank you, Josh. For the next question, we begin with Matthew Slayton. This is concerning the overall district vision. How important is it to serve on the PTA or a school committee prior to running for a seat on the school board?
That's a great question. It's certainly not a prerequisite. I think it helps. It helps anytime you're volunteering and participating in actions with the administration, the educators, being involved with the students. So the vision for the school is not just based on those. You know, there are 4 individuals up here. We all have our own perspectives on things. We all have our own expertise. You know, I think what each of us wants to bring is that expertise to decision-making and vision and helping the district and Dr. Wright, you know, maintain a great district and make sure that we're continuing to go in the right direction. PTA and PTO are great, but certainly not a prerequisite.
Thanks, Matthew. Same question for Nicholas Reynolds.
I think it could be beneficial. Like he said, it's not a prerequisite. I think any opportunity for any parent to be involved in their child's school and in their child's education is huge. For instance, this is the path that I chose to be involved in my children's education. Although it's not a prerequisite, I could also see where not being involved in the day-to-day operation of the school district also has its advantages, because you can bring a new and a fresh perspective. Something that, you know, you may have a new and fresh idea because you haven't been involved in the day-to-day operation of it. I don't think that it is vitally important. I think just being involved and having the desire to want to be involved in your children's education is what's crucial.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question, Josh Westrom.
Well, I think it's beneficial, obviously, and helpful, and that's why I've done it ever since I've been here. I've served on boards, I've served on the PTO, I've served in PTAs. We've sponsored teacher luncheons. We've been on the hospitality team to listen and talk to teachers. And I think the reason it's beneficial is because you're in the hallways, you're talking to the people that are with our children, that are making decisions as it relates to our children. And after years of doing that, you build some credibility within this community that I think you can spend to get things done. And I've tried to do that since I've been here. I've tried to do that for Harvest and Canyon Falls and this entire community. I did that with respect to this warehouse down here. I spent credibility and goodwill I think I had earned over years to say, you need to listen to these people. They have legitimate concerns and they're not being heard. And so that's why I think it's important to serve and be involved, because you build up goodwill and you can spend it when it needs to be spent.
Thank you, Josh. Same question, Andrew Herring.
Yeah, I'll agree with these guys here. I mean, it's definitely not a prerequisite to being on the school board, but it definitely helps knowing what's going on and being involved in the school, whether that's your kids or you're just volunteering or whatever. But I also think it's important that we have educators on the board as well. Educators that have sat in a 504 meeting, that have sat in ARD meetings, which bring a lot of liability to our school district. You know, we have been through those planning meetings and worked with kids in the classroom to see the vision on where we want to go. We obviously want to recruit and retain the highest level of teachers we can, right? So we also know that we're about $2,000 or $1,000 to $2,000 behind on the pay scale from our surrounding districts. So in the vision and the grand scheme of things, we want to make sure that we're attracting these teachers, we're building the facilities we need to accommodate our students, and we also want to make sure that we're providing as many opportunities as we can to our students going forward, so we have each student graduating with a degree, obviously, but they can get a certification in a trade, they can get some knowledge about a certain career path that they're looking to go through. All of that is encompassed in the vision. So it's important to take each one of those and put it into one master plan to make it work.
Thank you, Andrew. For the next question, we begin with Nicholas Reynolds. The question is, as a trustee, what would be your overall vision for the Argyle ISD?
The overall vision is to preserve the excellence that we've all grown to know and love, and the reason that we all moved here. The other vision, to continue to that is I want to establish trust. Not to say that there's not trust in the community now, but me personally, I want people to trust me. I want people to trust me when I say, pick up the phone and call me. Talk to me about your concerns. I want to listen to you. I put my money where my mouth is regarding that, because I've personally held 5 different forums to meet the community and to listen to parents' concerns, because every parent has a different concern. And I think as long as we have board members and board trustees that are willing to listen and are willing to put in the time when it's not required, that's how we're going to preserve the excellence that we moved here for, so that we can make sound decisions based on what the community input is.
Thank you, Nicholas. Same question, Josh Westrom.
Well, my overall vision for the school district is to continue to be great like we have been, to continue to do the things that made us great, and that really comes from really involved parents, hiring and retaining the best staff and teachers that we can afford. You know, you put leaders in those hallways and good things happen. And you get good people by being competitive in your pay, by providing a good quality work-life balance, by supporting them when they're getting attacked, and by acknowledging them and rewarding great performances. And that's where government fails oftentimes, because private sector does those things. They pay well, they support, and they acknowledge good performance. And I want to do that here for our school district and the leaders that we're putting in our hallways. I also think that, you know, my vision is you got to have good relationships in this community. I've worked hard to form good relationships. We're going to make some hard decisions here in the near future, and I think it's going to take somebody that has relationships all across this district to communicate those things when they don't get their way.
Thank you, Josh. Same question for Andrew Herring.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to echo some of the things that these guys have said because they're correct. When I started this race, I set out to meet with as many community leaders as I possibly can. That's mayors, council members, administrators, current board members. I set out to meet everybody I possibly could, and the reason was, and I told each and every one of them this, I'm not running this race to blow up what is good about Argyle ISD. I'm running on this race to bring a fresh perspective, so new ideas, new vision to add on to what has already been established here over the past 20 years since we first got our high school, right? 22 years, whatever it may be. But it's important that we narrow the divide between our 5 municipalities, as Nick mentioned earlier, to have a conversation. What's coming next? You know, would we have built this high school here had we known there was a giant warehouse going to be built next to us, right? It's important to know those bits of information so we can put our students in the best position possible to succeed, athletically, in the classroom, UIL, debate, whatever it may be. It's very important that we get those things done.
Thank you, Andrew. Same question, Matthew Slayton.
So the vision is simple. We want to continue the greatness that this district has put into place. The greatness that Dr. Wright, the board, more importantly, the teachers have put in place. You know, I know Andrew mentioned a few minutes ago the pay scale, and we may be a little off, but the reality is every time a position opens, we have 150 plus applicants. There's a reason why teachers want to come to Argyle and teach, and we don't want to do anything to hinder that. We want to continue bringing in the best educators that we can. Again, going back, everybody, growth is the issue that we're dealing with. And so my vision is to ensure that not just the next 5, but 10 and 15 years, we're looking at how we can continue this great district in spite of the growth that we're dealing with.
Thank you, Matthew. I now hold in my hand the final question of the evening. And we begin with Josh Westrom. The question is, what is the biggest issue in this election that has not been adequately addressed?
Well, I don't know that there's any issue. I've been out there campaigning for a few weeks, and it seems like every issue's coming at me, and I'm learning about a lot of different issues. But I'm going to tell you that what I think hasn't been addressed, particularly maybe even and maybe until tonight, was where do you stand on high schools? Where do you stand? What is an acceptable class size for you? And I have tried to come out and say, guys, community, you need to understand, I like one high school. I moved here for one high school, but I have a limit. And when it approaches a limit of like 800 or 900 kids, I'm going to tell you right now, as transparent as I can be, I think you're going to find someone that supports splitting into 2 400 size classes. Larger than any class that's ever graduated Argyle in its history. So I'm not talking about making 2 small bad schools. And I think that's where Nick, and I don't know where Nick stands. I don't know what his limits are. And I think when you talk about what issues you haven't heard discussed, I just don't know where he goes. Does he just one size no matter what?
Thank you, Josh. Same question for Andrew Herring.
Okay, so we're seeing exploding growth here, but if you look at the district map here, all the growth is happening to the west, in Harvest, the Ridge, out that way. Also down here in Canyon Falls, Trailwood, and the future of First Ranch development. One of the issues that I see that we have is it is true that every student in our district is represented by every board member that we have. Don't get that twisted in what I'm about to say. I have one of my former students here today, and I may get emotional talking to this, but every student means the world to me. You go ask him what I was able to do for the students when I had not a penny to my name. But it is important when you see growth, 70% of the district population will be on the west and southern side of the district, 70%. We won't have one person on the school board, not one. How is that? We build elementary school 4. With this trend continues, it'll be 79% of the district population won't have one person from their neighborhood that's on the board. That is huge. And I will fight for every single student that is in this district, whether you're my neighbor or you live across town. You can guarantee that.
Thank
you can
you,
bet your
Andrew.
token on that.
Same question for Matthew Slayton.
The issue of representation is an interesting one. These are at-large seats. We're not split into regions or sections or anything else. There are some districts across the state who have gone down that path, and things get very territorial. And while I do clearly understand where the primary growth is coming from right now, I don't think it's fair to say that the board, either as it's made up of now or for those that are going to be elected, don't always have every student, regardless of where they live or what side of a street they're on, in their best interest. And I believe that we're all up here for the same reason. We want the best for the students, period. And I don't think that whether I live on the far side of town or the south side of town or the west or the east side of town is relevant in this situation.
Thank you, Matthew. Same question, Nicholas Reynolds.
I'll use my time to, kind of answer your question. You gave me a nice little segue there, so I appreciate that. I've been asked that question a lot, what's too high? By 2031, our graduating class size, you're right, it's projected to be about 1,050 students. That oftentimes gets confused with we're going to be Allen's size. Let me be clear, we're not projected to be Allen's size. Allen's high school size is over 6,000 students. We're currently not projected to be that size. And also, I'm fully well aware that within the next 10 years, there could be a lot of things that change, going into, housing slowing down and so on and so forth. But I said going into this that I would side with what the community said, despite what my opinion on the high school situation is. And currently, 54% of the 2,200 people that took the survey in the fall did say they wanted a one high school campus. I do acknowledge that Matt did say that, they also did say that 600 is about the average class size they wanted, so there is an education factor that we are required to give the community to make those decisions. We can't have one high school if you want 600 graduating class size.
Thank
so
you.
I think that's where we really need to, we're kind of missing the mark.
Thank you, Nicholas. Sure, a rebuttal, sure.
I want to address the neighborhood thing. Matt touched on it a little bit. It's a really dangerous, slippery slope to go down to say, hey, we need our neighborhoods to be represented on these at-large seats. My neighborhood has never been represented on the board, and I've never doubted for a minute that this board would represent it well. Harvest and Canyon Falls, all the bonds that we've passed, the $460 million that we're trying to get passed, it's all for those communities. It's not that they're not well represented. This board and this administration cares about those communities. I care about those communities, and I think that it's unfair to say that they're not well represented because they haven't had representation on the board.
Thank you, Josh. Any other rebuttals? Okay, then we are going to conclude today's forum with closing statements, which will be asked in reverse order. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their closing statement. We'll begin with Josh Westrom.
Well, I've told you all a little bit about me and my family. I want you to really kind of know me. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I grew up in Fort Worth. I went to Western Hills High School. It was a bad school then. It's a worse school now. Unfortunately, I fit in back then. Until a coach came into my life as a junior. And he changed my life. He held me accountable. He made me feel like I had belong. He made me feel like I had purpose. He knew who I was. He called me out. And that changed my peer group. And I got involved with better peers who motivated me to do better things. And I ended up in law school and getting an education that changed my life and changed my children's life, and I was able to provide for them like I never thought and bring them to a community I never thought was possible. And so here's what I want you to know. When I vote on things and when I make these decisions on behalf of this community, I'm thinking about those perspectives that I went through, those life experiences, those coaches that came into my life, those teachers that changed me, the peer groups and how important that is, and ultimately how education changed my future. And that's the perspective that I'm going to have when things are put in front of me to vote on if I'm given the opportunity.
Thank you, Josh. Nicholas Reynolds, your 1-minute closing, please.
We've all talked about the great things we've done, our accomplishments. I think we can all agree that we're all very fortunate to have the families and the support staff that we do, the support system that we do. What I really want y'all to understand is I want your support because I want you to trust me. I want you to trust that that the character that I can bring to the board, that I will do what I say I'm going to do. I spent countless hours talking and meeting with people because I care, because I want what's best for this community. I want what's best for this district. I encourage all of you to go to your neighbor, to go to somebody that knows me and ask if I am the person that I claim to be, and I promise you that they will say that because I truly care and I truly want to be a representative for everybody here. I care, I want you to trust me, and that's why I want your support.
Thank you, Nicholas. Matthew Slayton, your 1-minute closing, please.
As I said at the beginning, you know, my family and I, we've been here for 14 years now. We moved here, much like all of you, for a great community and a great school. That is going to continue. I believe, regardless of who gets elected onto this board, the board members that we currently have in place, the superintendent that we have, all the great educators, we are going to continue in our excellence. I would like to be a part of that. I believe that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that I bring a certain perspective that is useful to the district. And we're going to have some difficult and challenging questions to answer. And I'm okay admitting that I'm wrong. I've told you guys that at a certain level, I want 2 high schools. That doesn't mean that regardless of all the data, an ultimate decision for 1 high school isn't possible. So again, I look forward to representing everybody and all the students in this great district.
Thank you, Matthew. Andrew Herring, your 1-minute closing, please.
We have 19 days. 19 days until early voting begins in what I believe to be the most critical election that this district has ever held. We have 19 days until the community will decide which path we want to take for years to come. We have 19 days until we decide, do we want more of the same, or do we want new, fresh ideas and a long-term plan? We have 19 days until we have a chance to vote on the incredible opportunities that this election is going to provide us. It is my hope that over the next 19 days, based off of the responses that I've given today, our one-on-one conversations that I've had with many of you, or the information that I've put online for you to consume, that you would consider and honor me with your vote so that together we can come together and create a district for the foreseeable future that works for everybody. I want to thank our moderator, Mr. Weir, and I also want to thank everybody for coming out here today, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to all the candidates. Please give them a round of applause. Also, I'd like to give thanks to our timekeeper, Richard Spees. I got it right this time. Okay. All right, early voting begins on Monday, April 25th, and ends on Tuesday, May 3rd. On Election Day, May 7th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. For voting locations, please visit votedenton.gov. Please visit the Cross Timbers Gazette website at www.crosstimbersgazette.com for the latest Southern Denton County news updates daily. Remember, local lives here. This concludes our program. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, Argyle ISD, and thank you all for attending.